Sometimes the strongest words aren't shouted, they're whispered inside us late at night. I just want love, not applause, not perfection, not to win the world, just love that feels safe, real, human, and there's nothing weak about that. What's hard is waking up every day in a world that teaches you to armor your heart, to pretend you don't care, to survive instead of feel. But wanting love isn't a flaw, it's proof you're still alive inside. It means you haven't given up on connection, even after disappointment, even after loss. Today isn't about begging for love. It's about overcoming the fear of needing it and learning how to stand tall without killing the softness that makes you who you are. Because the moment you stop wanting love, you stop wanting life. I just want love, not as an idea people talk about when it's convenient, not as a slogan stitched onto promises that fade when reality shows up, but as something quiet and steady that doesn't need to announce itself. I just want love that understands I'm human before I'm impressive, that I'm imperfect before I'm strong, that I'm learning as I'm living. Love that doesn't ask me to explain why some days I'm silent, why some memories still hurt, why I sometimes pull back, not because I don't care, but because I care deeply and I don't want to lose myself again. Somewhere along the way, wanting love started to feel like admitting a weakness. People learned to say they don't need anyone, learned to laugh it off, learned to pretend that independence means emotional distance. We started confusing self-protection with self-respect. We built walls and called them boundaries, shut down our hearts and called it maturity. But late at night, when the noise settles and the world stops asking us to perform, that truth still shows up, steady and undeniable, saying, I just want love. Love isn't about someone completing you. It's about someone recognizing you. It's about being allowed to exist as you are without constantly proving your worth. It's about being chosen, not because you're flawless, but because you're real. Real enough to stay when things are uncomfortable, real enough to speak honestly, real enough to admit fear without letting it control you. Wanting that kind of love isn't asking for too much, it's asking for something essential. We live in a time where connection is everywhere, but intimacy is rare. Messages are instant, attention is divided, conversations are shallow, and feelings are filtered. We're surrounded by people, yet starved for understanding. And when someone says, I just want love, what they often mean is, I want to be known. Known beyond highlights, known beyond success, known beyond the version of myself I show when I'm trying to be acceptable. Love doesn't rush you. It doesn't pressure you to heal faster or move on quicker or forget what shaped you. It respects your pace. It listens more than it speaks. It stays curious instead of judgmental. It doesn't make you feel like your pain is inconvenient. And when you've lived without that for a long time, the desire for it grows heavier, not desperate, just honest. A lot of people mistake love for escape. They think it's supposed to save them from loneliness, erase their wounds, fix what's broken. But love doesn't rescue you from your life. It meets you inside it. It doesn't remove the weight, it helps you carry it. It doesn't promise that everything will be easy. It promises that you won't have to face everything alone. And that difference matters. When you've been hurt, really hurt, you learn to be careful. You learn how to read signs, how to guard your heart, how to stay in control. You learn how to need less, expect less, feel less. And people will call that strength. But strength that costs you your ability to feel isn't strength, it's survival. Saying, I just want love is a sign that you're ready to live again, not just endure. Love isn't loud. Most of the time, it's found in consistency, in showing up, in choosing honesty over comfort, in staying present when it would be easier to disappear. It's found in patience, in forgiveness, in the willingness to grow together instead of apart. And when you've gone without it, you don't crave grand gestures. You crave peace. You crave safety. You crave a place where your heart can rest without fear. There's a difference between being alone and feeling alone. Solitude can be peaceful. Loneliness is heavy. Loneliness is feeling unseen even when someone is right next to you. It's speaking and wondering if anyone is really listening. It's being strong for everyone else while quietly hoping someone notices you're tired. When someone says, I just want love, they're not saying they want attention. They're saying they want relief from that weight. The world teaches us to earn everything, earn respect, earn approval, earn affection. So we carry that mindset into love, believing we have to become someone else to deserve it. We push ourselves to be more successful, more interesting, more agreeable, more perfect. But love that requires you to abandon yourself isn't love, it's negotiation. Real love doesn't ask you to disappear so it can exist. There's also fear attached to wanting love, fear of rejection, fear of loss, fear of being seen too clearly. Because when someone really sees you, they also have the power to hurt you. And if you've already experienced that pain, your heart remembers. It tightens, it hesitates. Overcoming I just want love isn't about silencing the desire. It's about facing the fear that comes with it and choosing not to let fear be the only voice you listen to. Some people cope by convincing themselves they don't care. They numb their feelings, distract themselves, stay busy, stay guarded. They say love is overrated, that it's a distraction, that it complicates things. And maybe it does complicate things, but it also gives meaning. It gives depth. It reminds you that you're connected to something beyond yourself. And without that, life can feel efficient but empty. Love asks for presence, and presence is rare. It means putting the phone down. It means listening without waiting to speak. It means staying when things aren't entertaining anymore. It means caring even when there's nothing to gain. And that kind of love can feel threatening in a world that rewards detachment, but it's also the kind of love that heals without trying to. Before you can receive love from someone else, there's love you have to offer yourself, not in a way that isolates you, but in a way that grounds you. Self-love isn't about arrogance, it's about boundaries. It's about knowing when to walk away. It's about believing you're worthy of respect, consistency, and kindness. When you don't believe that, you'll accept crumbs and call it a meal. Wanting love doesn't make you needy. Ignoring that need doesn't make you strong. We're wired for connection. We grow through relationships. We learn ourselves through others. Denying that doesn't make you evolved. It makes you disconnected. Saying, I just want love, is an act of honesty in a world full of emotional denial. Sometimes love doesn't come when you're looking for it. Sometimes it comes when you're learning how to be alone without being closed off. Sometimes it comes after disappointment has taught you discernment, and sometimes it looks different than you imagined. Quieter, simpler, less dramatic, more real. And when it arrives, it doesn't overwhelm you. It steadies you. The hardest part is trusting that love doesn't always end in loss, that not every connection is temporary, that not everyone will leave. Past pain has a way of convincing us that good things don't last, that if something feels it's probably an illusion. Overcoming that belief takes time. It takes patience with yourself. It takes choosing hope even when fear feels more familiar. You don't need to justify your desire for love. You don't need to explain it to people who dismiss it. You don't need permission to want something that has shaped humanity since the beginning. Love isn't a luxury, it's a need. And when you acknowledge that without shame, something shifts inside you. You stop chasing validation. You stop settling. You stop pretending you're unaffected by emptiness. Love teaches you things nothing else can. It teaches you humility. It teaches you responsibility. It teaches you how your actions affect someone else's heart. It teaches you patience. It teaches you how to forgive without forgetting who you are. And even when it hurts, it leaves you wiser than you were before. When you say, I just want love, you're not asking the world to fix you. You're asking for connection that doesn't require armor. You're asking for space where you can breathe. You're asking for honesty without punishment. You're asking for warmth in a world that often feels cold. And maybe the real challenge isn't finding love, but allowing yourself to remain open to it without losing your center, to want it without chasing it, to value it without clinging to it, to welcome it without surrendering your identity. That balance is hard, but it's worth learning. Love isn't something you conquer. It's something you participate in. It's something you choose again and again, even when it's inconvenient. And when you stop running from that truth, when you stop pretending you don't need it, when you stop apologizing for wanting it, you begin to live with more alignment, more calm, more authenticity, because at the core of all ambition, all struggle, all resilience, there's still that simple human truth, asking to be honored, asking to be felt, asking to be lived. I learned early how easy it is for the world to misunderstand love, how quickly people reduce it to dependency or drama or distraction, how often it's framed as something that makes you soft in a place that rewards hardness. So people train themselves to hide it. They learn how to keep their voices steady, their faces neutral, their expectations low. They learn how to say they're fine even when they're empty. And over time, they start believing that caring less is the same as being strong. But strength that requires you to shut down your heart isn't strength. It's fear wearing discipline as a mask. Love takes courage. Not the loud kind, not the kind that demands attention, but the quiet kind that keeps you open when closing off would be easier. It takes courage to let someone see you when you're unsure, when you don't have the answers, when you're still figuring things out. It takes courage to admit that you want to matter to someone, that you want to be chosen without having to perform or impress or compete. And that courage doesn't disappear just because the world tells you to toughen up. We're taught to admire self-sufficiency, to praise the ones who never ask for help, never lean, never pause. But no one builds a life alone. Every meaningful thing we create comes from connection, from collaboration, from trust. Love is simply the deepest form of that trust. It's allowing someone else's presence to influence you, to shape you, to challenge you. And that's not weakness, that's openness, that's growth. There's a difference between needing someone to survive and wanting someone to share your life with. Love doesn't erase your responsibility to stand on your own. It doesn't replace your purpose or your discipline. It adds meaning to them. It reminds you why the effort matters. It gives direction to your resilience. Without love, strength can become hollow, just endurance without joy. People often confuse love with losing control. They think if they care deeply, they'll lose themselves, compromise too much, give away their power. And yes, love does require compromise. It requires listening, it requires empathy, but it doesn't require self-erasure. Real love respects individuality. It doesn't demand obedience. It invites cooperation. It doesn't silence you. It encourages honesty. Fear is what turns love into something dangerous. Fear of abandonment, fear of betrayal, fear of not being enough. When fear leads, love becomes anxious, possessive, defensive. But that isn't love revealing weakness. That's unhealed pain asking for attention. Blaming love for that is like blaming fire for the burn instead of understanding how it's being handled. Love asks you to be present, and presence is demanding. It requires you to slow down. It requires you to listen without planning your response. It requires you to notice when someone you care about is struggling, even if they don't say it out loud. That kind of attention takes energy, it takes intention, it takes strength. Detachment is easy. Indifference is easy. Love asks more of you. In a world that moves fast, that values efficiency over depth, love can look impractical. It doesn't fit neatly into schedules. It doesn't always make logical sense. It asks you to prioritize people over outcomes sometimes. And that can feel risky, but every meaningful life is built on choices that don't make sense on paper. Love is one of those choices. When you've been hurt, you start associating love with loss. You remember the nights you questioned yourself, the moments you felt disposable, the silence that followed promises, and your mind tries to protect you by telling you to stop caring, to stop hoping, to stop opening up. It calls that wisdom. But wisdom without compassion becomes cynicism. It keeps you safe, but it keeps you alone. Choosing love again after disappointment isn't naive, it's brave. It means you refuse to let past pain define your future. It means you understand that one person's inability to love you properly doesn't invalidate your capacity to love deeply. It means you're willing to risk discomfort for the possibility of connection. Love also teaches responsibility. When you care about someone, your actions carry more weight. Your words matter more. Your absence is felt. That awareness shapes you. It forces you to grow up in ways nothing else does. You become more mindful, more patient, more accountable. Those are not weak traits. They are signs of maturity. Some people pride themselves on being emotionally untouchable. They think nothing gets to them. They think that makes them powerful. But being unreachable isn't the same as being strong. Strength is the ability to be affected without being destroyed. It's the ability to feel deeply without losing direction. Love challenges you to develop that kind of balance. There's also love that doesn't work out, love that ends, love that teaches through pain. Even that love isn't a failure. It reveals things about you, about your patterns, about what you need and what you can't accept. It sharpens your awareness. It refines your boundaries. Weakness avoids experience. Strength learns from it. The world often celebrates emotional distance as intelligence. It praises the ones who don't get attached, who keep their options open, who never risk too much. But that distance has a cost. It turns relationships into transactions. It reduces people to roles. It keeps everything replaceable. Love resists that. Love says this person matters. This moment matters. This connection matters. When you love, you allow yourself to be seen. And being seen is vulnerable. Someone can notice your fears, your habits, your contradictions. They can see where you hesitate, where you doubt yourself. But that exposure also brings relief. You don't have to hide all the time. You don't have to carry everything alone. That relief is not weakness, it's humanity. Love doesn't make you less capable. It doesn't take away your ambition. If anything, it gives you clarity. It helps you understand what's worth chasing and what's just noise. It grounds you. It reminds you that success without connection feels empty, that achievement without someone to share it with can feel hollow. People who dismiss love as weakness often confuse control with strength. Control avoids uncertainty. Love accepts it. Control keeps things predictable. Love understands that life isn't predictable. And choosing love in an unpredictable world requires resilience. It requires adaptability. It requires trust in yourself more than trust in outcomes. There's strength in saying you care, strength in saying you're hurt, strength in saying you miss someone. Pretending you're unaffected doesn't make you invincible. It makes you disconnected from your own experience. Love keeps you honest with yourself. Love also teaches you limits. It teaches you that you can't force someone to grow. You can't love someone into being ready. You can't sacrifice yourself into being valued. Those lessons are painful, but they're powerful. They help you choose better. They help you respect yourself. Choosing love doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It doesn't mean staying where you're diminished. It means valuing connection enough to demand that it be healthy. Love with boundaries is not less intense, it's more sustainable. In a culture that rewards detachment, choosing love is an act of resistance. It's saying that depth matters, that presence matters, that people matter more than appearances, that choice shapes how you move through the world. It influences how you listen, how you speak, how you forgive. Love doesn't guarantee happiness. Nothing does. But it gives context to pain. It gives meaning to effort. It gives warmth to struggle. And that warmth can carry you through moments where discipline alone would fail. You don't have to prove that love is strength to anyone else. You just have to live it honestly. You have to notice how it challenges you to be better, how it pushes you to grow, how it demands integrity. Weakness avoids challenge. Love invites it. When you stop seeing love as something that takes from you and start seeing it as something that reveals you, the fear begins to loosen. You realize that the risk isn't caring too much. The risk is not caring at all. The risk is building a life so guarded that nothing meaningful can enter it. Love asks you to stay open in a world that profits from your numbness. It asks you to feel in a culture that prefers distraction. It asks you to connect in a system that rewards isolation. And answering that call requires strength that goes deeper than toughness, strength that doesn't shout, strength that doesn't need approval, strength that knows being open is not the opposite of being powerful, but one of its truest forms. There comes a point where you realize the hardest part of life isn't failure, isn't loss, isn't even loneliness, but the slow closing of the heart that happens when disappointment repeats itself often enough. You don't notice it at first. It feels like wisdom. It feels like growth. You tell yourself you're just being careful now, just protecting your peace, just avoiding unnecessary pain. But slowly that carefulness turns into distance, and that distance turns into habit. And one day you wake up realizing you've been surviving, not truly living. Staying open is uncomfortable. It asks you to resist the instinct to retreat every time something goes wrong. It asks you to feel things fully without immediately numbing them, to acknowledge hurt without letting it define your identity. When you've been hurt before, openness feels risky. Your mind reminds you of everything that went wrong, every time trust was misplaced, every moment you felt foolish for caring. And yet, closing yourself off doesn't erase those memories. It just adds another layer of loss on top of them. People often believe that closing their heart will make them stronger, that emotional distance will make them untouchable. But being untouchable also means being unreachable. It means no one can truly meet you where you are because you're not really there. You're guarded, edited, filtered. Staying open doesn't mean being reckless. It means being present without surrendering your self-respect. Openness is not the absence of boundaries, it's the clarity of them. It's knowing what you can give and what you cannot. It's understanding your limits without using them as walls. When you're open, you don't let everyone in. You let the right people get close enough to matter. That discernment comes from experience, not from fear. Fear closes everything. Discernment chooses carefully. There's a quiet strength in allowing yourself to feel joy without immediately anticipating loss. A lot of people sabotage good moments by waiting for them to end. They tell themselves it's safer to expect disappointment than to be surprised by it. But that constant anticipation steals the present. Staying open means allowing yourself to experience good things as they are, without trying to control the future. Openness also means honesty, especially with yourself. It means admitting when something matters to you, even if that admission makes you feel exposed. It means recognizing when you're lonely instead of dismissing it. Loneliness isn't a personal failure, it's a signal. It's your inner world asking for connection, not attention, not validation, but understanding. The more pain you've known, the more intentional openness has to become. You don't stumble into it accidentally anymore. You choose it. You choose to speak even when silence would be easier. You choose to trust your instincts instead of letting past wounds speak for the present moment. You choose not to punish new people for old experiences. Staying open doesn't guarantee you won't get hurt again. Nothing can guarantee that. What it guarantees is that you won't lose yourself to bitterness. Bitterness is seductive. It offers certainty. It tells you that expecting less will keep you safe. But safety without warmth becomes emptiness. Over time, bitterness shrinks your world until it feels manageable but lifeless. Openness requires patience. People don't always meet you with the same depth you offer. Sometimes you give and don't receive. Sometimes you show up and aren't recognized. Staying open doesn't mean ignoring those realities. It means not letting them harden you. It means learning when to step back without shutting down completely. There's also vulnerability in admitting that you don't have everything figured out, that you're still learning, that you still make mistakes. Staying open means allowing growth to continue instead of pretending you've arrived. It's being willing to be a beginner again, emotionally, even after experience has made you cautious. Openness teaches humility. It shows you that you don't control outcomes, only your intentions. You can show up honestly and still be misunderstood. You can care deeply and still not be chosen. Those truths hurt, but they also clarify. They reveal who aligns with you and who doesn't, without requiring you to change yourself to fit. When you stay open, you start to notice how many people are quietly craving the same thing. Beneath confidence, beneath humor, beneath success, there's a shared desire to be seen without judgment. Openness invites that recognition. It creates space for real conversation, for moments that don't need to be impressive to be meaningful. There's courage in not letting past pain dictate your future reactions. Courage in pausing before you withdraw. courage in giving someone the benefit of the doubt without abandoning your standards. Staying open doesn't mean reliving old wounds. It means refusing to let them become your identity. The world rewards speed and certainty. Openness is slower. It's ambiguous. It doesn't come with guarantees, but it's where depth lives. It's where relationships move beyond roles and expectations into something real, something grounded, something human. Staying open also means allowing yourself to care about outcomes without being controlled by them. You can hope without clinging. You can invest without losing yourself. You can want connection without begging for it. That balance is learned through reflection, not through avoidance. There's a moment when you realize that closing your heart didn't actually make life easier. It just made it quieter, less colorful, less engaging. Staying open brings complexity back into your life, but it also brings meaning. It brings contrast. It brings moments that remind you why you chose to feel in the first place. Openness doesn't erase fear. It coexists with it. The goal isn't to become fearless. The goal is to stop letting fear be the decision maker. When fear leads, you shrink. When openness leads, you expand, even when it's uncomfortable. Being open means trusting yourself more than you trust outcomes. It means believing that even if something ends, you'll still be okay. That you can survive disappointment without becoming cold. That you can lose without becoming empty. Staying open is an ongoing practice. Some days it feels natural, some days it feels exhausting, but every time you choose not to shut down, not to disappear, not to pretend you don't care, you reinforce something important inside yourself. You remind yourself that your capacity to feel is not a liability. Openness is how you honor what you've been through without letting it define you. It's how you acknowledge pain without building a home inside it. It's how you move forward carrying wisdom instead of resentment. When you stay open, life remains unpredictable, but it also remains alive. Conversations go deeper, connections feel warmer, even silence feels less heavy. You stop measuring everything by how long it will last and start appreciating it for what it is. Staying open doesn't make you fragile. It makes you resilient in a quieter way. It teaches you how to bend without breaking, how to care without losing yourself, how to remain human in a world that often encourages detachment. And over time, you realize that the goal was never to protect yourself from feeling. The goal was to learn how to feel without being destroyed by it, to remain available to life without surrendering your integrity, to stay open not because it's easy, but because it's the only way connection, growth, and meaning can continue to find you. There is a quiet fear many people carry when they think about love, a fear that if they care too deeply, they'll disappear inside someone else, that their needs will fade, that their voice will soften until it's no longer heard. This fear doesn't come from imagination. It comes from experience, from times when love meant sacrifice without balance, giving without receiving, adjusting without being met halfway. Over time, that teaches people to pull back, to ration their care, to believe that loving fully always ends in loss of self. But love doesn't require you to abandon who you are. That version of love is imbalance, not connection. Real love doesn't ask you to shrink so it can feel bigger. It doesn't demand silence in exchange for closeness. It doesn't confuse control with care. Choosing love without losing yourself starts with understanding that your identity is not a bargaining chip. It's the foundation. A lot of people think love is about merging completely, about becoming one thing instead of two. But when two people erase themselves to blend together, there's nothing left to sustain the connection. What keeps love alive is individuality and harmony. Two people standing firmly in who they are, choosing each other not out of need, but out of alignment. Love isn't about filling a void. It's about sharing fullness. Losing yourself doesn't happen because you love too much. It happens because you don't listen to yourself enough, because you ignore discomfort, because you minimize your needs to keep peace, because you tell yourself it's temporary, that you'll speak up later, that it's not worth the conflict. Over time, those small silences accumulate, and one day you realize you've been absent from your own life. Choosing love wisely means staying in conversation with yourself. It means checking in with your body when something feels off. It means respecting your intuition, even when logic tries to override it. Intuition isn't loud, it doesn't argue. It quietly repeats the same message until you're ready to hear it. When you ignore it in the name of love, resentment slowly replaces affection. There's a difference between compromise and self-betrayal. Compromise is mutual. It involves listening, adjusting, and finding middle ground. Self-betrayal is one-sided. It's when you give up things that matter to you to avoid discomfort or abandonment. Love that asks for self-betrayal will never feel safe, no matter how intense it starts.